The architect in the shadows. In the dim light of his study, Commander Lawrence sits alone. The walls are lined with books, banned books, filled with ideas that once shaped nations. His hands rest on a desk, littered with papers, diagrams, and maps of Gilead's infrastructure. A cigarette burns slowly between his fingers. He doesn't move quickly. He never does. Lawrence is a man who understands that power doesn't always come from speed. It comes from timing. He's the architect of something monstrous. A man whose ideas helped birth a nation that devoured its own people. Yet, here he is, one of its commanders, sitting in silence, contemplating his next move. To outsiders, he's an enigma. To his enemies, a dangerous mind. To his allies, a man they can never fully trust. He plays the role of eccentric host, unpredictable strategist, and quiet rebel, often all in the same breath. And yet, behind every strange remark and half smile, there's calculation. Lawrence is playing a game no one else can fully see. But here's the question. Is he trying to win, or is he trying to lose in the right way? In Gilead, survival is an art form, and Joseph Lawrence has mastered it, not just for himself, but for those rare few he chooses to protect. This is the story of the genius who broke his own system, and the price he continues to pay for it. The visionary before Gilead. Before the title of commander was ever attached to his name, Joseph Lawrence was a man of vision. He was a scholar, an economist, a man fascinated by patterns, the kind of patterns that dictate how societies rise and fall. His work was controversial, provocative, and, in the wrong hands, dangerous. Lawrence believed in efficiency above sentiment. He saw the chaos of the pre-Gilead world, political unrest, environmental collapse, economic freefall, and concluded that radical change was the only path forward. He didn't dream of tyranny, he dreamed of order, a system where resources were managed, where waste was eliminated, where every life had a purpose. But dreams have a way of mutating when shared with ambitious men. The sons of Jacob saw in Lawrence's theories the perfect blueprint for control. They approached him, appealed to his pragmatism, convinced him that their vision aligned with his. And so Joseph Lawrence lent his brilliance to a cause he believed would save humanity. What he didn't foresee was how his own designs would be twisted, not into salvation, but into subjugation. By the time he realized what was happening, the machine was already running, and he was one of its key engineers. Leaving wasn't an option, not without consequences. So he stayed, and somewhere in the shadows of his mind, the seeds of quiet rebellion began to grow. The architect of oppression. When Gilead began to take shape, Lawrence was not simply an observer. He was in the room where the rules were drafted, where resources were reassigned, where freedoms were carefully stripped away under the guise of necessity. His economic models became the skeleton of a society rebuilt for control, not compassion. He understood logistics, supply chains, and how to keep a nation running with fewer resources. What he didn't control was how these efficiencies were weaponized. Every decision was presented as a compromise for the greater good, a sacrifice to avoid chaos. But sacrifices have a way of piling up until the people making them are buried beneath them. At first, Lawrence convinced himself it was working. The food supply stabilized, law and order returned, crime rates plummeted. But the human cost, that was something his ledgers couldn't quantify. When the first shipments of women were reassigned into roles, handmaids, Marthas, econowives, he told himself it was temporary, a restructuring until stability returned. But Gilead's leaders had no intention of returning those freedoms. He had built a system that didn't just survive without liberty, it thrived on the absence of it, and every success of that system was a reminder of his complicity. So he adapted. He learned to nod along, to sign the papers, to host the dinners. But behind closed doors, he began to maneuver pieces on the board in ways no one could see, searching for cracks in the foundation he had poured himself. The haunted genius. Joseph Lawrence's mind never rests. It churns late into the night, replaying choices made and paths not taken. His home is a museum of forbidden things, paintings, books, music that Gilead has deemed unfit for its citizens. Every item is a quiet rebellion, a reminder of the world before, and perhaps a reminder to himself that he hasn't completely surrendered. But the ghosts of his decisions linger. He remembers the faces of those who vanished after his policies took effect. The friends he could not, or would not, save. He wears his guilt like a second skin, visible only in the slump of his shoulders when no one is watching. In public he plays the eccentric, aloof, unpredictable, occasionally disarming with his humour, but beneath the wit is a man who knows exactly how dangerous he is, and how dangerous it would be to openly defy the system he helped build. Sometimes he wonders if the quiet resistance he offers, the small favours, the subtle delays, the whispered warnings, are enough to balance the scale. Other nights he knows they aren't. Lawrence understands that redemption isn't always possible, but he also knows that destruction, if applied in the right way at the right time, might be. The quiet rebel. Rebellion in Gilead does not always come with banners and speeches. Sometimes it comes in the form of hesitation, a misplaced shipment, a door left unlocked. Lawrence has mastered the art of dissent, so subtle that it looks like compliance. He knows the rules better than most, which means he also knows how to bend them without breaking them. His house has been a sanctuary for those who needed it, a place where secrets could be kept and plans could be whispered. But offering protection in Gilead is like playing chess with landmines. One wrong move, and everyone on the board pays the price. Lawrence operates in half measures, doing just enough to make a difference, but not enough to expose himself completely. This balancing act has earned him the suspicion of the true believers and the frustration of the resistance. Some see him as a coward, unwilling to commit fully to one side. Others see him as a lifeline, a man who can open doors no one else can. The truth is, Lawrence is both. He has no illusions about being a hero. Heroes burn bright and die fast in Gilead. Lawrence intends to outlast the flames, even if it means living in the grey where trust is currency and betrayal is survival. The moral chessboard. Every interaction with Commander Lawrence feels like a negotiation, even when he's offering tea. He speaks in riddles, giving just enough truth to make you believe him, but never enough to be certain of his intentions. In his mind, people are pieces, some pawns, some rooks, a rare few queens. He moves them across the board with careful precision, sometimes sacrificing one to save many, other times letting many fall to protect one. It's not cruelty, it's strategy, and strategy rarely feels merciful to those caught in it. Lawrence's world is one of constant calculation. Every promise he makes is weighed against the risk of keeping it. Every alliance is temporary, every deal subject to change. The resistance trusts him because they have to, not because they want to. The commanders tolerate him because he's useful, even when he's infuriating. In this game, survival is not about strength. It's about staying 3 moves ahead. And Joseph Lawrence, he's already thinking about the 5th, the man behind the mask. Strip away the titles, the calculated eccentricity, the carefully maintained distance, and what remains is a man trapped in a prison of his own design. Lawrence knows exactly how much of Gilead's cruelty carries his fingerprints. He doesn't deny it. He carries it with him in the quiet hours when no one is watching. But there's also something else there. Regret. Yes, but also defiance. A determination that if he cannot undo what he has built, he can at least shape how it falls. He has seen enough to know that Gilead will not last forever. No regime does. The question is not if it will fall, but how many will be crushed beneath it when it does. Lawrence plays the long game, positioning himself so that when the cracks become too wide to ignore, he can widen them. He doesn't dream of redemption. He dreams of precision, of ending things in a way that leaves fewer bodies in the rubble. It's not heroism. It's not absolution. It's simply the only way he knows to keep living with himself. Legacy of a reluctant villain. History will not remember Joseph Lawrence kindly. The textbooks, if they are ever written freely again, will call him an architect of oppression, a man who built systems that turned neighbours into prisoners and mothers into property. And they will be right. But history will not know the quiet moments, the small acts of rebellion, the risks taken in silence. Lawrence does not expect a legacy. He expects to be judged, and perhaps, in his own way, he welcomes it. Because the truth is, He has lived long enough to see himself become the villain in his own story. But villains too can make choices. And in the end, Joseph Lawrence's choices may be the very ones that determine how Gilead falls. Not with an explosion, not with a shout, but with a quiet, deliberate dismantling, one piece at a time.